Hello, class. In this lecture, we'll cover the second chapter of John, and we titled this lecture Belief Through the First Sign and the Possession of the Temple. So let's dig in. In verse 1, on the third day there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there, and both Jesus and his disciples were invited to the wedding. When the wine ran out, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said, "Woman, what does that have to do with us? My hour has not yet come." John recorded that Jesus' mother had been invited to the wedding. Because of Jesus' relationship to her, he had been included in the invitation. A wedding feast lasted between 2 and 7 days, depending on the resources of the bridegroom. During the wedding festivities, the supply of wine was exhausted, causing considerable embarrassment to the bridegroom. Learning of the embarrassment, Mary said to Jesus, "They have no wine." Jesus replied that his time to bestow messianic benefits had not come. Verse 5, his mother said to the servants, "Whatever he says to you, do it." Now there were 6 stone water pots set there for the Jewish custom of purification, containing 20 or 30 gallons each. Jesus said to them, "Fill the water pots with water." So they filled them up to the brim. And he said to them, "Draw some out now and take it to the head waiter." So they took it to him. Mary was not dissuaded and told the servants to do anything Jesus told them to do. Jesus told the servants to fill the jars with water. These jars were used for ceremonial purification and held 20 to 30 gallons of water. Those coming to the feast would find it necessary to wash their hands frequently so that they might be ceremonially clean. These jars were filled to the brim. Then Jesus said to them, "Draw some out now and take it to the master of the feast." Verse 9. When the head waiter tasted the water which had become wine, and did not know where it came from, but the servants who had drawn the water knew, the head waiter called the bridegroom and said to him, "Every man serves the good wine first, and when the people have drunk freely, then he serves the poorer wine. But you have kept the good wine until now." This beginning of his signs Jesus did in Cana of Galilee and manifested his glory, and his disciples believed in him. A miracle had taken place, for when the servants drew from the jars that had been filled with water and bore the contents to the master of the feast, he testified that he had tasted the choicest of wine. John records that the signs Jesus did in Cana of Galilee revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. Jesus was worthy to be believed. On this slide, we look at the use of wine in the New Testament. The rabbi said any unblessed food was unclean and would defile the eater. They taught that wine, unless mixed with water, could not be blessed. The rabbis debated about how much water must be added before wine could be blessed. Some contended 3 parts water and 1 part wine could be blessed. Others demanded that 10 parts water and 1 part wine be mixed before it could be blessed. It would seem in keeping with the custom and tradition that the water turned into wine was mixed so that it would not defile the people present and would be eligible to receive blessing. Verse 13. The Passover of the Jews was near, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. And he found in the temple those who were selling oxen and sheep and doves, and the money changers seated at their tables. And he made a scourge of cords and drove them all out of the temple with the sheep and the oxen, and he poured out the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. And to those who were selling the doves, he said, "Take these things away. Stop making my Father's house a place of business." This was Jesus' first Passover during his public ministry. Note that the temple had been dedicated as a place of meeting between God and his people. Because of the perversion of the temple, Jesus made whip of cords and drove out those selling sacrificial animals and all the animals, as well as the money changers, out of the temple. Moreover, he poured out the coins and overturned the money changers' tables. He said, "Take these things away. Stop making my Father's house a place of business." Verse 17. His disciples remembered that it was written, "Zeal for your house will consume me." The Jews then said to him, "What sign do you show us as your authority for doing these things?" Jesus answered, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up." The Jews then said, "It took 46 years to build this temple, and will you raise it up in 3 days?" But he was speaking of the temple of his body. Recalling Psalm 69:9, Jesus' disciples viewed Jesus' response to the misuse of God's house as evidence of the righteousness that belonged to the Lord. The Jews responded by demanding Jesus to show them a miraculous sign to prove his authority for doing these things. In proof of his authority, Jesus gave the sign of his death and resurrection. The source of this lecture came from and was adapted from the Words and Works of Jesus Christ, which was written by J. Dwight Pentecost.